Yeah, I'll tell you about the changes that have occurred this year out of the Federation book. They're very minimal. We'll talk about some of the points of emphasis that the Federation is looking to enforce this year, and then we'll do a brief once over on 2020 changes, being that everything was so harried last year that there was some changes out there that either we may not have got to you guys or you may not have even been aware of. Changes actually last year were more involved than this year. This year's as simple as can be in terms of changes. There's really only one. So with that, let me pop this up and see if we can't bring that up here. We can. So that's good. So let's go into slideshow from the beginning. So here's where we go. For this year, and we don't need to go over all the boilerplate. This year, the Federation asked us, because of the circumstances involved in what's been going on for the last 18 months, to request less changes. So the 50 states were pretty good about doing that. There was only one change that came out of the season, and here it is. The change that came out of this season involves blocking below the waist in the free blocking zone. And the only change is really a slight change to the definition. We think this will make things a little bit easier for everybody. That's our hope anyway. Let's see if I can't go backwards here. Hang on. Go back to this. Hang on. Here we go. All right. Okay. So what changed this year was this. The free blocking zone really comes down to one rule change. The contact on the free block needs to be all players involved in blocking around the line of scrimmage and in the free blocking zone. The free blocking zone being that rectangle that's 3 yards from each line of scrimmage and 4 yards from the center. The contact needs to be in that zone, and it can only be on blocks on players that are on the line of scrimmage and in the zone at the snap. And the change is the block is an immediate initial action following the snap. So let me explain that as best as I can. What that means is, and I've got another one to show you guys that I think will help a little bit better on this. Let me see if I can actually bring that up. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Hang on. Let's see. Yeah, here. Okay. This is a better one. So here's what changed, and I'm okay with stealing things from my friends out in Colorado, by the way. So here's what hasn't changed. The free blocking zone is always what it's been. The requirement for all players, both offense and defense, involved in the block to be in the zone at the snap. Very easy. The requirement. So some people will ask me, well, what about a tight end? Tight end is going to depend on your splits. So if you can basically jam 3 players in a 4-yard box, which I think most teams can, provided you're in standard splits, the tight end, if he is a tight end, is almost always going to be in the free blocking zone. So what hasn't changed, if we go here, or what doesn't matter, last year this mattered. When we talked last year about the stance the blocker's in, we probably told you guys last year that if a player was in a 2-point stance, that he could not cut because we didn't think that it would allow the initial block to be thrown immediately. We think now, put it this way, they've taken that rule out. So what's changed is it's going to be the initial continuous action. And that changes a lot for us because it allows us to just kind of see nobody can stand up. So here's what the blockers can and can't do. They can't rise from their position before initiating a block, can't take a backward step, can't take more than 2 steps forward or laterally before making contact, and no hesitation. So basically, at the snap, the blocker's got to be going low immediately, and he's got to be going right to the player he's blocking. You might ask, okay, which players can be blocked? How are we going to call this? What the blocker can do, and by the way, this is defense too, so the defensive players can do this also. You could fire out or step towards a head-up opponent. You could step towards an opponent in an adjacent gap, or you can step towards an opponent who's head up to an adjacent teammate. So those are the three guys who basically we think can get blocked. So here's the best way to look at it. Let me see if I can do this as a slideshow. It will be better if I can. Here we go. So there's a neutral zone, obviously. If you go to the defensive line, you're 1 yard deep. So if that's for the purpose of identifying a lineman. And here's your offensive lineman. As you can see, 87, the way we've got him set up, he's in a free blocking zone. So here's your defenders. If we go to say, okay, who can be blocked? So let's go to here. For illustration purposes, we're going to take the offensive tackle here, number 70. Number 70 is going to take a lunge forward, and he is going to block number 65. If he blocks him low immediately and initially at the snap, no problem, no foul. That's good. Totally fine. That's good. If we go to number 70 and he's going to go to number 67, adjacent to the head-up player, and he throws an immediate block right there, lunges and goes in low, it's a low block, it's legal. Why? Because we're saying that he can complete that block inside of 2 steps. He can do that before that second step is completely finished, and it's immediate and initial action. Now, we're going to bring in another player here who we kind of know he might have a problem with, number 72. 2 reasons why he's not going to be able to get number 72. Number 1, number 72, although he is in the zone, he's not on the line of scrimmage. So that makes him ineligible to be low blocked. Number 2, he's going to need to take more than 2 steps to get to this guy. Once we get him, that's illegal. At no point in time, even though number 25 is in the zone at the snap, because again, he's not on the line of scrimmage, nobody on your team here on the offensive side is going to be allowed to low block this player. So that's it, believe it or not, in terms of the new stuff for this year. So what I am going to do, we've got some plays, and what I'll do is I will send these plays out to you. Mm-hmm. So these are some of the things that are going to change for this year. Let's go back in and just do this again if I can. Yeah, there we go. All right. Good. Okay. So that's it for these rules. Let me go into some of the things from last year. So you see here, this player again, this is the Federation's PowerPoint. You see how right there, head up, immediate block, no problem. We go into all of these things here in terms of blocking below the waist. 65 on to 93, good. 72, although he is in the zone at the snap, going for 55, no good. He cannot be blocked low because A, he's not in the zone at the snap, even though in this case, he is on the line of scrimmage. So we'll talk about this. The initial contact is with the hands. Some people ask me, what if the hands are there? When the blocker finishes the block below the waist, it is not a foul if he is in contact initially with the hands of the player. That kind of should help you too. The initial contact in this place here, the blocker loses control and the blocker starts a new block below the waist. That's a foul. So in contact, the defender gets away. And then once the contact is lost, your offensive player goes in and tries to establish a low block again. Being it was not part of the immediate initial action following the snap, he's not going to be able to get a second bite at that. Once that defender gets away from him, he's got to block him above the waist. Here again in this, you're going to see how this, and we've had coaches who have sent me pictures, and I have to agree with them that it does in fact happen. Remember that this can also happen on a defender. So as you're showing here, let's say you've got a lead fullback who's leading the blocks for either a quarterback or a running back behind him. He cannot be cut because in all instances here, if he's a back, he did not start on the line of scrimmage and he did not start in the free blocking zone. So the defender in this case, he cannot take out a lead blocker. We get a lot of complaints on this, and I have to say that I've seen some of the video on it. It's a difficult call for us to make, but it's a call we need to get, and it is a call, and it is a foul that in fact does happen more than maybe you think. So let me just sneak through the editorials. I just want to show you some things about 2020, some of the things that we talked about. I think we talked about this last year, and you guys probably knew about this. If you've got a designated representative on the sideline who you want to make decisions, or you want to have make decisions regarding penalty acceptances or declines, doesn't have to be you. If you want to tell me that it's your OC or your DC, that's fine. We can have it. We can do that. You can also designate a player on the field who we will take. Now, if it's a situation where there's no obvious choice, where two of the choices are both choices that could potentially accept it, I will bypass a player on the field and I will go to somebody on the sideline for that call. And I think we make that a point when we talk to our officials to make sure that we're going to get the right decision made by the right person. This is something that we talked about last year. If we've got a weather issue and the weather issue lasts more than 30 minutes and the game, and let's just say we had 2 minutes left in the first period, what we can do is we can come out, we can go through the 3-minute warm-up or whatever the warm-up it is we need, play the 2 minutes, and instead of going back to a 10-minute minimum, we can mutually agree to shorten halftime after those 2 minutes are played. So that's a good thing. The only thing we need to have happen is we need to have at least a break, and we need to, of course, have that 3-minute warm-up. So anytime a defender last year, and this was in play last year, anytime a defender has an equipment issue or an injury, the play clock is not going to go to 25. The play clock's going to go to 40. Just that's going to be done in the event that we think that the defender is trying to buy additional time here and trying to basically take time away from the offense. So if the offense has got the ball, there's under 2 minutes to play, and a defender suddenly, miraculously his helmet comes off, the defensive, we're going to call a timeout. We're going to reset. We're going to have this player go off the field. But instead of setting the play clock to 25, which would give the defensive team an advantage in this case, we're going to set the clock to 40. That was actually in play last year also. So any play after a legal kick, high school rules are very simple. All plays will start after a legal kick, which a legal kick being kicked that crossed the line of scrimmage, and so on and so forth. That is going to start the play clock the next time at 25, and it's going to start on the snap. This is one that I'm not sure anybody knew about last year, and I had asked. I went and did a youth league meeting the other day, and not one of these guys understood this. That this actually was on the books last year, and maybe you guys never noticed it either. Maybe it never happened. So when we say disconcerting acts, when you run a player up to, let's say, the center, and you go up and you stamp a foot directly where the ball is, or you go up and you get as close to him as you possibly can without going across the line of scrimmage, and you yell a signal, we're going to shut that play down. The reason that they changed this from a 15-yard unsportsmanlike foul to a 5-yard foul is because, frankly, when it was a 15-yard foul, nobody was calling it. So the reason that they moved this was in the hope that when you see a situation like this, that our officials will call it. And because it's a 5-yard foul, they might be more inclined to call it, thinking to themselves, well, maybe that's not worthy of a 15-yard penalty, and they might keep it in their pocket. This is the hope here that we're going to have, that this will get called and it will be a 5-yard foul and it will actually be called. You probably never had it last year. Did anybody get this call last year, either for or against them? I guess not. So, yeah, all right. So there you go. Last rule, and I think you guys all knew this last year. So they changed the spiking the ball to conserve time. Does not have to be from a direct hand-to-hand snap anymore. Can be as far back as you want. You want your quarterback back 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards, whatever it is. He can take it as long as The ball has been directly centered to him. It's not hit the ground. It's not been bobbled. Other than that, he can spike it. Huh. All right, so I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but that was a point. So let me just do the sportsmanship stuff, or the points of emphasis. Sportsmanship's been a big deal, and you guys know that, and we all know that. So what they are going to emphasize this year is they're going to talk about things maybe not on the field, and these are things obviously that you can't handle because you got other things to worry about. So what we need your site directors to make sure that when we've got situations like this, such as the band playing during the cadence of the offense, when you're on defense at home, whether you got kids in the stands acting up, acting crudely and using foul language and directing it at the other team, or you've got a public address announcer who's inciting issues after potentially a controversial call. We want to make sure that your site director is aware of this, or you guys are aware of this, and you can tell us who your site director is, so we can make sure that things of this nature are shut down before they become a big problem. Intentional grounding. The big problem with intentional grounding in high school football is that everybody, you, me, all your players, all your coaches, all the people in the stands, think that we're like the NFL and the NCAA, which means that once they get outside the numbers or outside the quote-unquote tackle box, that they can throw the ball up into the press box. Can't. It's not our rule. Our rule is when a forward pass is thrown to prevent loss of yardage or to conserve time to an area not occupied by a receiver. Doesn't matter in our rules, in Federation high school rules, doesn't matter if he's outside the tackle box. There was some talk about using an experimental rule, and the state of Oregon actually did last year, where they created what was, in their mind, a tackle box under Federation guidelines, and they used it. I haven't got any feedback on them. It's a 2-year, so they're going to use it again this year. They got a 2-year exemption, so it'll be interesting to see if that gets brought up at the rules meeting next year in Indianapolis as to whether or not they had success on it or not. But your guys are going to say, when I got that quarterback A1 going into that side zone, especially into your side zone, and he's dumping the ball into your lap, or like I said, into the stands or up into the press box, and I'm going to throw that flag for intentional grounding, and you're going to look at me and say, he's outside the tackle box. It doesn't matter. It's not a high school football rule. It's strictly a college and an NFL rule. And this one is a rule that, boy, is this tough, because what we're doing here, ineligible downfield, if he's in an initial contact, he's got up to 2 yards to go downfield in this case if you get a ball that crosses the line of scrimmage. Don't forget that any passes that don't cross the line of scrimmage, screen passes that you're throwing, those blockers are allowed to leak. But ineligible A players can't advance beyond the expanded neutral zone on a legal forward pass before the pass crosses the neutral zone. It's a bitch of a call for our guys, especially our wing guys, because they're looking at two things. And I don't know how you can look at both. I don't know how you can definitely, with clarity, I don't know how you can look and see that a player is past 2 yards down the line, across the line of scrimmage, and the ball's not across. So, I mean, it's probably the hardest call we have to make, but we do want to make sure that when we throw it, that A player is clearly way more than 2 yards down at the moment that the pass occurs.
Hey, Billy,
because it's easy for him to move down the field after the ball's all across it, and all of a sudden we look, he's at 3, the ball's already gone, but maybe when the ball crossed, he might have been at 1 or 2. So, hard call for us.
Billy?
Yeah.
One question.
Sure.
With RPOs, is there anything that you guys are looking for extra now with linemen going downfield, and of course the threat of the ball being thrown too?
Well, yeah, this is a perfect example of that with the RPOs, because in a lot of the cases your linemen are unsure what's going to occur because the quarterback's unsure of what he's going to do until he actually does it. So when he's coming up to that line of scrimmage and you've already got a number of linemen downfield because they think he's going to take off, and at the line of scrimmage he stops, his feet are in the zone, but the ball is not. As long as the ball's not across the zone, he could still throw the ball. And if you've got a lineman 3 yards down, you've got a situation here where those players they're ineligibles downfield. So in a perfect world, should we get that? Yeah, we hope we're going to get that. But like I said, because of so many schools, not only at the shore but all over the country running RPO, it's making a hard call even harder for us because we've got to keep eyes on the quarterback for 2 reasons. Number one, as he's coming up, he's still a quarterback. Even though he's running, he's still a quarterback. So if he stops and he throws and the ball's gone and then he's roughed, he's still eligible for a roughing the passer hit, even though he was a potential threat to run the football, provided he stopped. So if he's going to, we've got to make sure that we're watching the quarterback. We're going to make sure that we're watching the lineman downfield. We've got to see where the quarterback is in relationship to the line of scrimmage. And we've got to see where the ball is in relationship to the line of scrimmage. It's a very difficult call for all of us, but something that we're going to try our best to get.
Hey, Billy, this is Coach Clark from Lakewood High School. I have a question on that.
Yeah, sure.
If we're running like a zone read and my quarterback's obviously giving the ball and he stopped a couple of times last year, like my kid, he got drove to the ground and obviously he didn't have the ball and it's a fake. He's a live runner. I'm like, obviously he didn't have the ball. Isn't that unnecessary roughness or?
It can be, Coach. Here's the thing. If the contact is concurrent with the ball being released, we think that's fine, especially in light of the fact that he was a threat to run the ball.
But my question to you is I mean, like after you, obviously, we've all played football. If you're tackling him and you can blow the whistle and he's backpedaling and you drive him to the ground.
Oh, that's a different animal altogether. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that you can certainly build a case for that. And I think if you saw it and if that quarterback's being driven back and certainly if he's picked up and driven into the ground, yeah, I think that in most cases, you can expect to see a flag there for at least, well, put it this way. It's not going to be, it won't be a sportsmanlike or a personal foul. Remember that all personal fouls against the quarterback in this case become roughing the passer calls, which carry additional fouls, which includes moving it back to the original line of scrimmage, or if the pass is complete, enforcing it from the end of the play.
That was a very good explanation of that. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. Hopefully it helps. So, and obviously, the last point of emphasis here is line of scrimmage formation. And, we're always talking to you guys about making sure that either your tight ends or your wide receivers let us know what their intentions are when they are. And you guys, by and large, do a very good job at that. You'll see a guy come out and he's either going to point ahead. And we kind of know that, the universal language of a wide receiver pointing ahead means that he intends to be on the line of scrimmage. If he intends to be on the line of scrimmage, and he's told me he intends to be on the line of scrimmage, and he's like number 88, if he's in no man's land there, I think most of the time you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If he comes out and does not declare an intention, whether or not he intends to be on the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, and he's lined up as number 88 is, he's got a good chance of getting called for that for being in an ineligible formation. Especially if he's the 7th lineman where you've got 7 linemen and he's not covered up by a wideout on the left side there, then there's a good likelihood that we're going to look at him and say, he's not on the line, he's not a back, he's in no man's land. You might see a foul early on that because those are fouls that we encourage our officials to get early in the game, so we don't have to make that, as you guys might think, and we think also, we don't want to have that quote unquote cheap call at the end of a game when time really, we know it always matters, but I'd rather have that call at the 9-minute mark of the first quarter than I would at the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter when the game's 13-13. So that's it in terms of these changes. Let me go over a couple of other things here that I think you guys are aware of in terms of things that had occurred over the course of the off season. We had pretty good dialogue with the Coaches Association, and I guess all you guys know John Jacob. We had some dialogue with the Coaches Association during the off season, and we had all with some of that. It involved some conversation with some of the black coaches concerning their concerns about potentially not getting the same treatment as other coaches. And it wasn't really necessarily always just a racial situation. They had also said that in certain cases they thought that they were being treated unfairly in circumstances where, let's say, there was a team coming in at 1-7 against a team who was 7-1, and they thought that they were treated. They didn't think that they received the same treatment fairly. Over the course of the off season, we had agreed that we were going to work on things. We were going to try to make a case for both of us, both the coaches and the officials, to expand dialogue during the game. We're going to make it, and we're going to make our guys know that this is a situation that was brought up. This was not something that we brought up. This is something that the coaches brought up. It's something that when the coaches bring it up, we think that it merits our consideration. And we asked the coaches to give us certain respect in terms of the sidelines, in terms of being out of our way when we officiate. And we're hoping that this is going to be a two-way street where it becomes a better situation for both us on the sideline and for you in terms of getting better treatment. And I'm sure maybe you've thought that. You guys, you've all may have been in a game where this occurred. You may have been in a game where you walked in and, let's say, I'll give an example only because maybe you've walked in on a Saturday afternoon to play a Manasquan when they're 7-0, and you're looking at the sideline and you're seeing the officials, and maybe they're talking to the Manasquan coaches, and you're thinking to yourself, I got no shot here. And I'm not, you know what, it looks bad. We've told our guys to be cognizant of this. That if you're going to go over and talk to the Manasquan coaches, you better go bust your ass and get over on that other sideline and talk to the coaches and give them the same amount of time as you're giving the guys on the other side. So we're hoping that that's going to occur this year. And one other thing that's occurred, and you guys are probably aware, maybe you are aware of it, maybe you're not. John had come back to us with a request, and we're going to do it this year. John had requested that for an experimental period that we switch our officials, our line of scrimmage officials, both deep officials and wing officials on the line of scrimmage at halftime. And we've agreed to do it this year. So if there's an official perhaps that you're not getting on with famously in the first half, well, you're not going to see him in the second half. We're going to switch it. What we've planned to do is that we think that all of our officials are educated enough with the chain crews. The chains are going to stay where they are. They're not going to move with the officials. So the chains are always going to be. Chains need to be where they are because we know that you guys are videotaping or filming or videoing, whatever it is. And we know that, you need the chains there as kind of to see what's what on terms of each play. So we're not going to move the chains away from your video. We are going to move our officials. We're going to start our line judge and our side judge on the chains in the first half, moving our head linesman and our field judge back to the other side during the second half and potential overtimes, having the guys that are most familiar with the yard to gain equipment on the yard to gain equipment in the second half and potentially into overtime. So that's a change for all of us this year. And it's a change that you guys requested. We're going to go along with it. We're going to come back to the coaches, and we're going to talk about this in the off season in the winter of 2022. We'll see if, in fact, we think it was good. We'll get feedback from you. We'll get feedback from our officials, and we'll get feedback from our NJFOA board. We'll make a determination as to whether or not it sticks or it goes away at the end of the year. But you guys will have a say in that. So that's it in terms of changes. Do you guys have any questions?
No.
All right, good. Like I said, it was pretty easy this year.
Hey, Bill, real quick. Yeah, God has a question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Coach.
Listen, you was saying to me go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jason. Go ahead. All right. Just real quick. It's kind of loosely not interpreted. I just get different evaluations of it. Can you just give me a breakdown of defensive pass interference with face guarding?
Yeah, face guarding is fine. There's got to be contact made to have defensive or offensive pass interference. So you can face guard. Provided there's no contact. Yeah,
All right,
again,
great. Thank you.
yeah, you know what it is, Coach? Again, it's another rule that gets confused with Saturday and Sunday football, because in the NFL, obviously, face guarding is a foul, and here it is. You might have an assistant coach or your fans on the sideline that are screaming and yelling at us because they saw that get called in the Giant game yesterday, or on Sunday, and we're not calling it on Friday night, and we're not calling it on Friday night because it's not our rule. So if you take a look, let me see if I got a book here. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Nah, I don't have it. I was going to say, yeah, hang on one second. Let me just get it. I'll read you off the DPI rule. Here you go. It's forward pass interference if any player of A or B or is beyond the neutral zone interferes with an eligible opponent's opportunity to move towards, catch, or bat the ball. I'm just trying to go down here. Let's see. Pass interference restrictions on illegal forward pass. We all know that. Begin at the snap for A, and when the ball leaves the passer's hands for B. And I'm trying to look and see here where it says it needs to have contact. Ta-da. Pass interference restrictions only apply beyond the neutral zone, and only if the legal forward pass untouched by B or in or behind the neutral zone crosses the neutral zone. Pass interference restrictions are in effect for all A and B players until the ball is touched or the pass is complete. I know it's in there somewhere. I don't want to hold you guys up, but it is. Yeah, you would need contact to occur for defensive or offensive pass interference to occur for that, which includes picks or things of that nature. We know that. You're starting to see a lot of rubs and picks right now, and the kids do a pretty good job of running their routes. But in certain cases, we do see where the kid just he's not even pretending, and he's going to run directly and throw a block downfield. Remember that for offensive players, that restriction starts at the snap, so those guys cannot block downfield when a legal forward pass is thrown. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I had one question about the trickery rule.
Yeah,
when,
sure.
Say it's like fourth down the inches, and we snap down our hands.
Right.
Now, from what I interpreted from the rules is that as long as you do that every single time, it's not a foul.
So if
correct or not?
No, if that's your normal cadence, yeah, and you guys do that play after play after play, we think that's fine. If you come out and you've been running your offense where you're going down you're coming out of your splits and you're going down a certain way, then on 4th and 3, all of a sudden, you've switched that up completely. Then we're going to go back to that rule that we had talked about the what was it, instead of having the unsportsmanlike conduct, we're going to have the call where we're going to potentially throw that 5-yarder for calling signals or for creating a situation where a guy's coming up and stamping. We think that can be construed as the same thing.
Yeah,
so
see,
provided
my
it's
thing
time
is
after time after time.
Yeah, now when you say all we do is we just don't snap the ball. That's the only thing different.
Right.
And a couple of times last year, some teams jumped off sides and they're like, you can't do that because it's not the same thing. All we did was just not snap the ball. We did everything the same. We just didn't snap the ball.
Okay, well, I mean, I would, it's kind of one of those things where you'd have to see it to tell you, but I would say that if it's your normal splits and you're going down the way you go down on 3rd down or 2nd down, and you go down on 4th down, but the ball's not being snapped, that's your prerogative to wait that out, and you guys can run the 40-second clock out. Yeah, obviously, once you're down, you can't come back out of it. But at the same time, if you're
a couple of times we got called for that last year, and I was like,
LJ,
what are we supposed to do? Yeah, listen.
You know what I would do, LJ? I would say this: if you got a couple of instances on it, and you've got huddle film on it, send it in.
Yeah.
And anytime I could look at something that we talk about on a week-to-week basis, if I can look at it in front of 100 in a room of 100 people in terms of officials, I'm glad to show that.
Yeah.
And then we can all kind of come to consensus on what we think about it is. And then because you'd be the guy sending it in, I could put it in front of everybody, and then we can come out and say, okay, the room thinks that this is what it is and this is why. So I'm glad to do that. So, and all you have to do is pop that up. Our our chapter secretary, Andrew Rosenberg, is terrific at this stuff, and Andrew is a huddle guru like you guys are. I'm learning. I'm getting there, but if you guys send this in, Andrew, I know every year has made it easy for you guys to send us videos. So I'm sure that you guys still have the means to send me anything.
Yeah.
Plus, you could always send it in. I've got my own site on the NJFOA too, so you know where to send it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, if that's it, I'm glad that we, I'm glad that we got together. It wasn't as many people as hopefully we normally might have got, but times are crazy right now, and we get it. Rob, certainly, use this, and what I'm glad to do also is I will send you those 2 PowerPoints that you can distribute to your coaches.
Okay.
So you can take a look at these, and it'll kind of show you the things that I'm basing decisions off of going forward. I get to make this presentation again Monday night to our regional interpreters all throughout the state of New Jersey, and then on the 17th of August, I'm going to be making the presentation to all of our local officials in the Shore Conference.
Yeah, Billy, I recorded it. So if you send me the PowerPoint, and
I will. I'll send you both.
20 coaches said they had either parent meetings or they had practice or weight room, but they're all
the season, right?
They're all going to be watching the video.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, guys, good luck this season. I'm sure I'll see you guys out on the field. It's not soon. I know I got my first scrimmage on August 20th, so I can do math. It won't be long now. So
Thanks.
I will see you guys down the road. We'll see you on the field. And again, you guys all know how to get a hold of me if you've got a circumstance that you think, I'll always give you the 24-hour rule. If you're hot about something that happened during the game, think about it for a night before you call. But if it's still bugging you by the time 24 hours are gone and you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, guys. Good luck this season.